Is it panic time for Matt Rhule and Nebraska? During the bye week, they changed offensive coordinators and they brought in a defensive consultant with 3 games to go, including Saturday's game against USC. What's going on here? I have some answers. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're going to look deeper into Nebraska and the Nebraska USC game coming up this weekend. I think it's one of the more interesting games on the schedule. Plus, we'll have Big Ten news, good news for Oregon. We'll have injury news with Iowa and a whole lot more right here. And we'll close it out with our Big Ten Classic. So hang tight for all of that. Many Nebraska Husker fans have long experienced frustration with the offense, specifically offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. I've heard it. We've seen the comments here, and we've talked about it before. The offense has been sputtering along during Nebraska's 3-game losing streak. Actually, a little longer than that, to be honest with you. What's nerve-wracking about this 3-game losing streak is the Huskers have been stuck on 5 wins since their 14-7 win over Rutgers on October 5th. It's been over a month since the Huskers have tasted victory. And even with that win, only scoring 14 points and none in the second half of that Rutgers game, it's a little concerning. But at the time, a win is a win, and the Huskers were sitting at 5-1. Okay, cool. Everything's fine here. 1 win away from becoming bowl eligible. Still have a whole half of a football season left to go. Everything's fine, right? Piece of cake. Until it wasn't. Since then, they've been blown out by 49 points at Indiana. They lost a heartbreaker at Ohio State and lost at home to a UCLA team that had been struggling, to say the least. Now, with a road game at USC and a home game against Wisconsin and the season finale at Tough Kinnick Stadium to play Iowa, one quickly realizes that none of these remaining games are gimmies. They're all 50-50 games, at least right now. All winnable, but they could lose them all. Now, on top of all this is the memory of last year's finish, right? That's not calming any nerves in Lincoln right now. They were stuck on 5 wins last year, 1 win away from bowl eligibility, and then they lost their last 4 games, all of them by 1 score, which has been kind of a theme over the years at Nebraska, the 1-score loss. A repeat finish this year would be devastating for the Huskers and Matt Rhule and his program. So Matt Rhule, not one to sit around, decided to do something drastic over the bye week this past week. He added Dana Holgorsen to his staff. Holgorsen was the head coach at West Virginia and at Houston, and presently was an offensive consultant for TCU. At first, we thought, because basically we were told that he was just going to come in and have kind of the same role, right? An expanding, take it day by day as it comes, consultant role with Nebraska, and maybe some sort of evolving job description. But why leave an offensive consultant position with TCU for the same role at Nebraska in the final month of the season? It was weird. Well, that's because there's more to the story. Now, a few days later, word came out of Nebraska that after reviewing the situation for a few days, Rhule announced that Holgorsen would take over play calling duties effective immediately. He's the new offensive coordinator. I mean, you could read it between the lines. It seems like this was a strong possibility before Holgorsen ever got onto an airplane and came to Lincoln. Again, why would he leave a similar job at TCU? There had to be more to the story. He came in, he checked it out, he goes, all right. Both of them said, let's do this. Now, what about Satterfield? Well, he's going to be bumped down or be tight ends coach, which basically was part of his prior duties there. So what's next moving forward with Nebraska and their offense? And Holgorsen, again, with 3 games to go, he's jumping in. Dylan Raiola's getting used to the new guy, all that right there. Of course, at the center of all this is freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola and his continued development. He has struggled since a pretty impressive start, let's be honest, to his career earlier in the year. Things seem to be going pretty well. Again, they were 5-1, but he has struggled in the past few games statistically, and he's coming off a hip back injury a couple of weekends ago against UCLA. In fact, he just started practicing again a couple of days ago. But overall, the Huskers are 99th in the country at just under 24 points per game, and that's not going to be good enough. So Rhule says he wants Holgorsen to bring in a fresh perspective on the offense and actually hopes to retain him for the staff next year. But he also acknowledges that Holgorsen might be in demand to be a head coach elsewhere. Maybe, maybe not. Certainly, if he has success and all of a sudden the light bulb comes on and Nebraska's offense is impressive and Dylan Raiola is impressive, and they get to a bowl game, Holgorsen will get some attention from some other teams. But I think Rhule would like, hey, this is a tryout for both of us. If it works good, then let's do it again next year and give Raiola some consistency as well on offense. If not, that means that Raiola would have 3 offensive coordinators in like a year. That's not ideal. So that's what the situation is right now. Now, where does Holgorsen begin? Everything will begin and end with Raiola. Holgorsen historically is a pass-first offensive guy. He once learned under the tutelage of offensive passing guru Mike Leach back at the Texas Tech days. His quarterback was Graham Harrell. He led the nation in passing. Later, when Holgorsen was at Houston, he, of course, had Case Keenum, who led the country in passing. You start to see a theme here. At West Virginia, he coached Geno Smith, who had a very good career there as well. So this could be just what the doctor ordered. Holgorsen and his quarterbacks do pretty well under Holgorsen's system. So this appears to be exactly what Dylan Raiola needs. And, Rhule's not just dialing in his offense here. He's looking for input on the defensive side of the ball as well. Also during this bye week, he brought in his defensive coordinator from his time at Baylor and his time with the Carolina Panthers, Phil Snow. He's there as a consultant. Now, they didn't make him defensive play caller or defensive coordinator, but he's there. So some pretty big-time moves coaching-wise and behind the scenes by Matt Rhule during this bye week, again, with just 3 games to go. So are these sudden panic moves? Panic moves trying to avoid another disappointing season before it's all over with and goes by the wayside? I mean, Matt Rhule doesn't want to be sitting here 2 off seasons in a row going, wow, we were this close to getting to a bowl game. No, he's trying to do something about it now. I don't think it's panic mode at all. I actually think this is the coaching staff leaving no stone unturned in an attempt to turn things around in 2024 before it's too late. I commend it, actually. And, doing this during the bye week is smart because you got a few extra days built in where everybody can kind of get used to everybody and their new roles and their new expectations. I would love to get some comments from you Husker fans out there. I know we've been talking a lot about the Oregon Ducks lately. They've been the number 1 team in the country and all that. We haven't forgot you, Huskers fans. Want to hear from you here. Get your comments on YouTube back and forth about whether this is too little, too late, whether it's long overdue. Is Holgorsen going to have the magic fix? And also your comments about what you think about USC. That's a tough game. They're also struggling. This is kind of a desperate matchup that both teams desperately need to win in this game on Saturday. So we're going to talk about the Trojans in just a moment. They're doing some changes here, also coming off of a bye week. But I also want to remind everybody that Locked On Big Ten is going to go live on Saturday like we always do. We'll do it immediately following the Ducks game at Wisconsin, the late game, the 7:30 game, Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Immediate reaction from me, plus your live comments instantaneously. And we'll talk about that game and all the other games the rest of the day, including Nebraska and USC, which will be pretty much done by then as well. So we'll take all those comments as well. If you're on video, you see the crawl on the bottom, talkbig10.com. Go there for all of our podcasts. You want to catch up on a few. Also, do some Christmas shopping, get some merchandise, some Big Ten gear, Nebraska hats, shirts, T-shirts, USC, Oregon, Indiana, Michigan. It's all right there a link for you if you want to go ahead and knock out some Christmas shopping right there for your convenience, right along all of our podcasts. Also, going to ask you if you haven't yet to subscribe because that is free, as always free. It's free when you sign up. It will remain free. Hit the little subscribe button, and then you and I are in the same loop together with all things Big Ten. You can subscribe and then share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your podcast. And that way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right. So what about Nebraska's opponent this weekend and USC? They have made some changes during their bye week as well. We will get into all of that as well. So we have some injury updates at Oregon and Iowa, and we have our Big Ten Classics coming up. We're loaded. Lots going on in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Get ready to tackle the rest of the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So if you have a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check on some stats, some scores, all right there on the same page that you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. By the way, tonight, Thursday Night Football, NFC East battle, the 7-3 Commanders at the 7-2 Eagles. Eagles are 3-point favorites. I'm not touching that because I think it's going to be a close game. I do like the over 45.5 or 48.5. So check that out. It's all at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Well, thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Thank you, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe and share and follow and like of course, on YouTube. You can go ahead and check it out there. And we always appreciate you subscribing. Also, check out our website, talkbig10.com as well. So as USC gets ready to take on the Huskers, they have some interesting news as well. First of all, like Nebraska, they've been on the struggle bus too. They've lost 4 out of 5. And they also, like Nebraska, are coming off a bye week and making some changes going into this game this weekend. First of all, quarterback Miller Moss has been benched. He hasn't lived up to the billing or the promise of his 6-touchdown Holiday Bowl performance at the end of last season. So quarterback Jaden Maeva, he's a redshirt sophomore, transfer out of UNLV. He's going to get the start. Played a little bit this season. Not much. He was back in the Utah State game back in September and completed 8 of 11 passes for 66 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And also, Saturday's game's going to be a little emotional for older, longtime Trojan fans. Former USC Trojans head coach John Robinson passed away last week. We talked about him yesterday's podcast because he was great. Man. He won in the college and in the pros with the Rams. He was 89 years old. He had a 104, 35, and 4 record at Southern Cal. He was 8-1 in bowl games. That also includes his stint at UNLV. But he won 4 Rose Bowls, along with his 5 conference championships, and had 2 Heisman Trophy winners in Charles White and Marcus Allen, who played for him. There's other USC news. They're fined $50,000 and placed on 1-year probation because they violated NCAA rules about on and off field coaching activities. According to the NCAA, USC exceeded the allowed number of assistant coaches by half a dozen in 2022 and 2023. Too many coaches, too many assistants. And there was some gray area in the language because some of this is a relatively new rule that was in place about the time Lincoln Riley was becoming the head coach. They let that slide. They said that they're not suspending him for breaking these rules because of the gray area and because also Riley exhibits an atmosphere of compliance, according to the NCAA. Other news around the Big Ten. Oregon running back Jordan James and defensive end Jordan Birch are both expected to play for the Ducks in Saturday's game versus Wisconsin. James had just 1 carry in last week's win over Maryland, and there are not a lot of details about the injury. Everybody's all tight-lipped about these things these days, but he had a season-low 7 carries, 29 yards in the game. He's on the verge of 1,000 yards, though. He's got 946 yards and 10 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Birch, he had missed some time earlier this year. He was back in the lineup. Seemed to tweak his ankle in the fourth quarter Saturday and did not return in the win against Maryland. Up to that point, he made his presence felt. 3 tackles, 2 pass breakups, a forced fumble that resulted in a touchdown and a 36-yard run on a fake punt. Pretty good day before tweaking the old ankle. Meanwhile, wide receiver and punt returner Tez Johnson continues to heal from his injured shoulder that he suffered in the Michigan game. Let's talk about Iowa for a second. They're on a bye this week. It's still unclear who's going to be the starting quarterback next weekend. Again, good thing they got time on their side with the bye week to heal up a little bit. Cade McNamara, a couple weeks ago, had a concussion. He's been out ever since then. And so Brendan Sullivan, he started his place to transfer from Northwestern. But he injured his ankle last week against UCLA. Walk-on Jackson Stratton had to jump in there and finish the game against the Bruins. He was 3 for 6 for 28 yards. Offensive coordinator Tim Lester said that both are trending in the right direction. Says it's too early to name a starter. Really doesn't know right now. Can't give you any other information. Again, their next game is Saturday at Maryland. And I love talking about hoop. We got hoops. I mentioned this yesterday. I'm going to mention it again. We got some interesting Big Ten basketball matchups tomorrow, Friday night. So let's take a look at them in case you missed it. Purdue, ranked 13th in the country, hosting number 2 Alabama. That would not be a close football game right now, but this could be a very interesting basketball game. That's on Peacock. It's part of a Friday night Peacock doubleheader. Maryland hosting number 15 Marquette. That's on FS1. And Wisconsin hosting number 9 Arizona. That's the other Peacock game. And again, this is basketball. This will be a good football game. Number 21 Ohio State is at number 23 Texas A&M. That will be on the SEC network. So basketball is here. The other night, I thought Michigan State hung in there with the number 1 team at Kansas. I'm going to be interested to see how they kind of improve from that. They weren't perfect, and they had trouble shooting from the perimeter. They looked a little better on the inside than they did last year. Michigan State did. So basketball's here. We're good to go. Looking ahead at the upcoming Big Ten network schedule, we're going to look at the football schedule, a little basketball on the schedule too. We'll look at Big Ten Classics. We like to do that every Thursday. So all that's coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. I'll tell you about Game Time. Game Time is great. Get the app, put it on your phone, your device. And anytime you need a ticket to anything, Big Ten football, Big Ten basketball game, I'll go to an NBA game, or non-sports like concerts, comedy shows in your own neighborhood. If you have the Game Time app and something needs a ticket, you can get it with Game Time. So download it and use it. It's easy. It's a great user experience. I love that you can see the view of the seat for the ticket you're about to buy. They have all-in pricing right there. There's no surprises at the end. They have their lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And terms apply. Again, you can create the account, and redeem code is LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, we're going to take a look at our Big Ten Classics and Big Ten Live Action. If you're new here, we always have a feature at the end of our podcast. Mondays are always our Big Ten Top 10 observations. Tuesday tweets. Wednesday, we power rank things, usually the standings. Thursday, Big Ten Classics and Big Ten Live Action for the Big Ten Network. Coming up on the weekend schedule, we highlight a few things. We don't do the whole schedule. And then on Friday, we do pigskin picks. We put our money where our mouth is on the record with the picks. We'll do that on tomorrow's podcast as we get ready to preview the entire weekend. But let's get to it. Big Ten Classics and Live Action. I'm going to put it on screen if you are on audio only. Lots of you listening on audio only. That's fine. I'll describe it in detail here with what we have on the screen. These are all Eastern times. Friday, November 15th, we pick it up at 1 o'clock Eastern. It is a Northwestern football classic. Ohio State at Northwestern from 2004. Noah Herron scored 3 touchdowns, including a 1-yard game winner to help the Wildcats upset the 7th-ranked Buckeyes 33-27 in overtime. Again, 2004. Normally, I remember these because I watched them. I don't remember that one. I really don't. The upside 2004. 2 o'clock. Maybe I'll have to watch this and refresh my memory. At 2 o'clock, we got an Ohio State football classic. It is the 2018 Big Ten Championship with Ohio State versus Northwestern. I do remember that. Dwayne Haskins threw for 499 yards and 5 touchdowns as the Buckeyes overcame Pat Fitzgerald and the Wildcats to win their 2nd consecutive Big Ten championship. At 6:30 Eastern on Friday, we go to basketball, Big Ten men's basketball. Monmouth at Rutgers. Get a look at Rutgers. Rutgers is ranked. Yeah, they got that Harper kid there. Dad was an NBAer. At 8:30 Eastern time, Big Ten men's basketball. Washington State at Iowa. So we'll get a look at the Hawkeyes on Friday night. And then on Saturdays, we get back to football. First of all, Big Ten Network starts it off with their Big Ten tailgate, 10 o'clock Eastern time from Wrigley Field. That'll be cool. It'll be good visual. That is because Ohio State is playing Northwestern. That's why we had the Big Ten Classic games we just talked about, Northwestern and Ohio State. They're going to play at Wrigley because that temporary field they have while their main stadium's being built, the temporary one only holds 15,000. And Ohio State, they'll have 15. They'll want 15,000 people there themselves. And I believe it's homecoming for Northwestern. So anyway, enjoy that day there in Chicago, 10 a.m. Wrigley Field, getting ready for Ohio State and Northwestern. At 11:30, the Big Ten Network then goes to the Big Ten Countdown to kickoff, and that takes you on the field leading up to game time, previews biggest games of the day, and the latest news from reporters around the country. And then at 12 o'clock, the game we've been talking about here for the last 2 minutes, Ohio State against Northwestern at Wrigley Field. Then later on, we got some more action here on Saturday. Let's switch the screen on the video and talk about it for you on audio at 4 p.m. Eastern. We go back to men's basketball. Yale at Minnesota, taking on the Golden Gophers. Smart guys of Yale. 6 p.m., more basketball. Bowling Green at Michigan State. So we'll see how Michigan State, see if they can improve their outside shooting, their three-point shooting from coming off the Kansas game, and see if they can get on a tear on the perimeter against Bowling Green. That would be something. On to Sunday, November 17th, 11 a.m. Eastern. We got the Big Ten football in 60. We tell you about this. This is when they take a 3.5-hour game and they boil it down to an hour. They just edit from snap to snap to snap, play to play to play. And the one they have on 11 o'clock will be the Ohio State Northwestern game, in case you missed it on Saturday. It will re-air numerous times over the weekend and into the week. They'll have several others as well. For example, at 12 o'clock, we know that another Big Ten football in 60, Nebraska and Southern Cal, the other game we spent a lot of time talking about here today. If you missed the game on Saturday, if you're busy, catch all the highlights, every single play. You could do that at starting at 12 noon before you settle in for your NFL football. It'll be great. At 1 o'clock, Big Ten Network is going basketball, men's basketball, St. Mary's, the St. Mary's from California, taking on Nebraska at Nebraska. And at 3 o'clock, Big Ten men's soccer tournament championship, Michigan versus Ohio State. I don't care what sport it is. If it's Michigan and Ohio State, you got to lock in. That's at 3 o'clock Eastern. And then more Big Ten men's basketball at 9:30 Eastern. Got California at USC. No more Bronny. Bronny was on USC last year. Now he's on the Lakers and the G League as well. There you have it. Those are the Big Ten Classics, the Big Ten live action on the Big Ten Network this weekend. Those are the things you can kick back and watch. And hope you enjoy them. Enjoy all the games. And we'll be talking about them afterward with our live program. Remember, right after the Oregon-Wisconsin game, probably about 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific, we'll go live here on YouTube for immediate reaction between you and me. Always appreciate that. Tomorrow, we'll have a complete preview of every single Big Ten team and every Big Ten game scheduled this weekend, plus our pigskin picks. You want to miss that. We always have fun with that as well. In the meantime, if you want to interact with me, don't forget there's Twitter, X at Talk Big Ten, comments on YouTube, back and forth. Let's have it. Let's go. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. bigten.com, where all of our podcasts, and you can get merchandise there if you want it too from your favorite Big Ten school. Whatever you do, be sure to subscribe if you don't mind. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Thank you for joining us here today. Can't wait to talk again tomorrow. Tell your friends about us. We're out here each and every day. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll talk to you next time.